should you invest in crypto? Should you invest in cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and altcoins? I don't know. We're going to find that out. Not everybody should invest in crypto. That's what I will make as a statement. Not everybody should invest in crypto. In the beginning, I think that over time, a person can acquire the tendencies and the practices to invest in crypto because it's something that you might need to learn within yourself, right? There are lots of risk involved in cryptocurrency investing. There's a lot of volatility. There's a lot of movement. There's ups, there's downs, there's highs, there's lows. And often these are dramatic highs, dramatic lows. So that might not feel good for some of us. In fact, that could make some of us feel ill inside. It could actually make you feel sick to your stomach inside. So what are some qualities that make for a good cryptocurrency investor? I think overall, one of the major things to think of is a longer term mindset. A mindset that is longer than a year or 2 years. Maybe 5 years would be a great time to think. Or even better would be something like 10 years. Now, I know that sounds like a long time, but good things, all good things come in time, right? So in the midst of a year or two, whenever you decide to get into this space, could be in the middle of a declining bear market that lasts for 2 years. And then it's a sideways accumulation phase aspect to a market that lasts for another year. And then a slow transfer into a bull market that lasts for another year before there's massive gains for you to take advantage of, right? So there's a lot of time. So the time element, I've noticed for my own self and through others, is one of the hardest things to be comfortable with. Time, okay? Because they say time is money, right? And it's really about, for me, my quality of life is better thought of as my time rather than my money. I don't really care about the money that I'm making. I'm not trying to treasure how much money I'm making. I'm trying to treasure my time. Time with family, time with loved ones, experiences, travel, that kind of thing, right? Time is more precious than money, but they say time is money, right? So when you're paying for something, you're paying for a service, you're paying for labor as well as what you're actually getting, whether it's a house redone or your car worked on, you're paying for labor, right? Time is money. So time has an element to investing because we're putting our money into this. If we didn't have money to put into it, I think the time is easier for us to deal with. Right? But when you're putting money in this year here, and then you're not really thinking of touching that money till this year here, that is where we get difficult, right? It's like, we get frustrated. There's ups, there's downs. And it's like, what do we do with our mental aspect? What do we do with our mental attitude when we're thinking of how we're investing over the course of time? So if you're somebody who's really needs things now and needs things done right this second, and you're looking to put money in here and cash out in a couple months, then this might not be the space for you to invest. In fact, I don't know if anything would be good for you to invest in as far as investments go. Maybe you should take a look at that because most investments are longer suited. But if you're somebody who's like that, you could train yourself to be better with time, okay? You could train yourself to get more suited and dialed in with a time horizon. I was somebody that was more fast-paced, wanting things done now, and I've adjusted myself to be better with time, to be more comfortable with time. One of the great things to start with is that you're not investing too much money. You're not doing too much investing or investing more than you should, because now you really need this to double or to get your money back. I was astounded when I first started investing in this crypto space to hear that people would actually take out credit cards and swipe their credit cards to invest, or attach their credit card to an exchange and invest with their credit cards, hoping that in the very next month or 3 months later, that they were going to be able to pay off their credit cards. Let me tell you how that ends up. It doesn't end up like you think, like they think. It ends up most of the time negatively. There are some, unicorn stories where a person times it perfectly, but the market is always going to prove you wrong in your ability to time the market. The market does its own thing, and what I mean by market is that a project like Bitcoin is going up, it's going down. You can look at the charts on TradingView and see the actual market move. It's like its own entity. It moves in its own way. It's its own living ecosystem that you cannot control as much as you want to. With the time horizon that you're in, where you think that you're going to time it perfectly, I'm telling you, it often goes the other way. Because it's a collection of people. That's what Bitcoin is. It's a collection of investors that are all trying to time the market. So it's better not to think about timing the market. It's more about positioning yourself so that when the market becomes available, then you're there when the market allows itself for you to take the advantage, right? So there's lots of things that you can do to prepare yourself to a market that you can't have any control over. We go through some of this stuff in our Cryptofluency online courses. We talk a little bit more about the strategy of investing, the strategy of trading in this uncertain, volatile market, okay? So time, that's one thing. Money is another thing. Money is another aspect of this, okay? If you are somebody who is very concerned with losing their money, well, you might not be suited to invest right now. And just like what we talked about with time, it doesn't mean that you cannot cure this ailment and this issue with yourself and get ready and actually be somebody that can get better with how they see money overall. I had a terrible relationship with money at one point in my life. And I know many of us actually have this. We have a bad relationship with money for whatever reason. And on both spectrums. Like I see it with people who have a lot of money, they have a bad relationship with it, and people who have little, they have a bad relationship with it. And somebody who has a lot of money, their bad relationship could be in the form of overspending, they're spending too much, or so they can lose a lot, okay? And then people who don't have a lot of money, their whole attitude towards money is that they don't like people who have money, or they have this disconcerting relationship with money, and the people who haven't, that they don't want anything to do with it. And I understand both aspects. My family moved to a affluent town outside of Philadelphia, in this mainline area. It was actually one of the greatest things I could have experienced growing up, because my parents were like entry-level workers. They were younger, they were an entry-level job, came into this mainline area from other aspects of Pennsylvania, where I'm from, that weren't so affluent. We moved into this area and I was like blown away by how the kids were differently, and I was like, wow, culture shocked. We didn't have a lot of money. We're living paycheck to paycheck. We're living this wonderful life, but we don't have a lot of money. And I started to quickly understand and recognize this growing up, having friends that had like a tremendous amount of money. And it wasn't that the people who had a lot of money had a better life. In fact, it's sometimes the opposite, where they have a lot more conflict than people who don't have money. So our relationship with money is a challenge, and you have to understand where you are in this process of money, right? Because for me, what I was doing is I was building a life where I was working such to save and to actually grow my little bank account up, and I definitely don't want to lose what I've been saving for so long. So I didn't want to let go of my money, right? I wanted to hold on to it. Okay, now I know somebody who has a lot of money. There's a story that has a lot of money, poured it all into the market and lost $4 million. I was blown away. He put it all into Bitcoin at the wrong time, thinking it was going to go from like 20,000 to 100,000. It actually ended up going down to $3,000 or 3,500 bucks at some point. Person sold out and lost the equivalent of $4 million. So that's the example of somebody who's got a lot of money, who puts it in, and it goes that way. Now that person has a bad taste in their mouth about investing, and they might miss opportunities in the future, okay? Somebody who also doesn't have a lot of money, who puts it in at the wrong time and loses it, it's even worse, right? It's not fun to think of this in a short-term way. I will say that that person who sold their money out, lost $4 million, had that person stayed in for 3.5 more years, would have recouped all of that money. In fact, would have tripled what they had if they could have stayed the course, okay, for 3.5 more years. That's why I originally said maybe a year to 5 years is better, more like 10 years. So what we think about here, our philosophy at Cryptofluency is we're recognizing that there is a revolution going on with technology at large. There is a technological advancement occurring that blockchain technology begins as a layer of upgrade from Web 2 to like Web 3. So fundamentally, we recognize that there is an opportunity. We also recognize that this takes time. So we're not thinking in terms of getting rich quick, in terms of putting all of our eggs into this basket and like praying about it. Although I think prayer is really a great thing, and I actually pray a lot about how my portfolio is, because it all is in the hands of God anyway. What does it all mean anyway? So what we focus on at Cryptofluency is recognizing this opportunity and that there's going to take time. And there are ebbs and flows, and there are trading sequences that we can do throughout a portion of time to overall advance and grow our portfolios. But this is all something that happens over time as you get better as a trader and as an investor. Okay, so if you're somebody who has some sort of aversion to money in some way, then we can recognize that. You could get honest with yourself and you can begin. Like for instance, if you don't have a lot of money to begin, then start to save. Well, you say, well, I don't make a lot of money. How can I save? Because I have all this stuff to build. I'm in debt. I would say go ahead and watch my Mountain of Wealth video, and I explain that in detail. But one thing you can start to do is like cut down some expenses and take note on what you're doing as far as your lifestyle to reduce some expenditures. And then you can also save very little bits of money that will add up to a lot, because this space here doesn't necessarily mean that you need a tremendous amount of money to actually make some life-changing gains. Okay, this is a space where there's unheard of growths of 2 to 10, sometimes 30,000% increases. It's absolutely mind-boggling, something that we don't see in stock markets, right? Because of this complete revolution of technology. It's one other aspect, like should you invest? Are you somebody that likes to do a little bit of investigation, right? Do you like to do a little research about what you're investing in? Now, if you're not someone, and I'm not a person that was like extremely scholastic in my life, I didn't really like homework, You know, I was good at taking tests, but I didn't really like to study that much. And so I would say that I was not this person that was like wanting to do a lot of research and invest my time in doing that. And I've learned to allow myself the opportunity to become this kind of a person. Because if I'm putting my money into something, then I might as well investigate the team that has started this company. I'm investigating their social media. What are they putting out? And I'm investigating their papers, their tokenomics. Okay, you'll hear me say this tokenomics a lot. And engaging whether or not this is a wise investment. And I've done things, and it has saved me in the fact that I've been investing in certain projects that over time I felt and found out that they weren't the best. So I was able to move out of them and avoid rug pull type situations. What is a rug pull? It's like, it's you investing in something and then they pull the rug right out of you, and either the company completely falls down, or you're a part of some exchange that completely falls down and you can't really withdraw your money fast enough before everything's lost, right? In the case of FTX, like they just stopped allowing you to withdraw. So you have this money invested in the exchange and everybody's trying to withdraw because they're understanding that they're becoming insolvent, the company FTX at large, because of mismanagement, because it's a centralized entity that shouldn't have been trusted in the first place. You cannot withdraw now. You know, I mean, there's a long process to try to figure out how to retrieve your money. You're probably going to have to get attorney and figure out a long process, and maybe you can salvage some, maybe you can't, but you don't want to be in that position, right? You want to research. You want to participate in like decentralized protocols, okay? So are you somebody that can do that? Are you somebody that can see yourself as becoming that? And I mentioned in my last video that I wasn't really that person. I didn't have time. I was in another business, but I used my driving. And I stopped listening to music that really just put a song in my head that I couldn't get it out of. You know, I started to listen to stuff and educating myself and doing research during this time. And then those kinds of things got stuck in my head. Those understandings, that kind of knowledge, that kind of wisdom got stuck in my head, and I started to learn more. And I started to understand it more. And here's something that I'll promise you. When you start to invest your time in researching something that you're putting your money in and you're finding out good news about it, I'm telling you, it becomes like an addictive, beautiful thing. An addictive thing in a good way. And it's about keeping up with that, auditing of that project. So every day I'm kind of keeping my ear to the street and seeing what's going on with this project. Do I still want to remain invested in it? Are there other projects that are coming that I can invest in? Okay, so time is one thing, money is the other thing, and your ability to do your own homework on these projects you're investing in. Because we got to be responsible, right? This isn't gambling at all. And I think most people think about it as gambling. They're like, oh, you know, I'm investing over here, I'm investing over there. And this whole phenomenon now of sports betting, I actually got in a conversation the other day, people were talking about sports betting as like a way to make money. I was like, what? At the same time, these people previously in our conversation were talking about cryptocurrencies, and they're saying that they don't have time, they don't have money. And then later on, we're talking about sports betting, and they're talking about how they're in that. They got enough money for that. They got enough time for that. And let me tell you, these guys, you know what they could tell you? They could tell you everything about the football team. They could tell you every football team in the NFL. They could talk about all the drafts, all the picks, all the players, all the injury reports. Tell you, that's a lot of information that they know. So how many teams are in the NFL? Well, think about all the projects you could investigate. Think about all their players, their team, what they're doing. So these people do actually have time. They do actually have the money to invest in it. And I'll tell you, if I went through a forensic investigation of their gains from sports betting, I will most certainly recognize that it's not anything to write home about. You're not going to change your life. You're not going to like quit your job. And over time, the house always wins. So the odds are stacked against you. So there is time. It's just you got to choose different things. I was a high school football player. You're looking at a guy who was recruited to play football. I knew everything about not only NFL, but college, okay? I was a part of fantasy leagues. So you're not looking at a guy who like doesn't understand that stuff. You're looking at a guy who, that was my life. I'll talk to you about every team, know all the stats, know all the players, okay? That has transformed himself to use his time differently, to investigate different things, to understand different stuff, like cryptocurrencies, for instance, here, and it has made my life a lot better than it was when I knew every football team, every baseball team, right? Basketball, you name it, golf, kind of getting out of hand with everything that we invest our time and energy in. You know, I could also recite every song. I knew thousands of songs by heart. So I don't listen to the music as much anymore. I invest my time listening and researching and hearing from the people themselves what they're doing. And it is educating me to understand different components of what these blockchain protocols are even doing. So is it a drag for me? No, it's fun. It's exciting. Just like it's exciting for the sports player to see what the injury reports are. I want to know what the reports are for these companies and protocols I'm investing in. And so should you. So that I think is the third component. There are many other components. Okay, there are many other components, but I think those are the three biggest ones. And if you could get your time checked in, like if you could recognize that you're probably going to be here for a little bit on the planet, right? And you're probably going to be working. In 3 to 5 years from now, you're probably still going to be wanting or needing money. Even if you're the person that like doesn't want money, you're still going to need money. Okay? And if you have a lot of money, I mean, you could do better things with your money. You could like switch your crosshairs of what you're adding to the world by participating in fantastic ecosystems that have a great impact. Okay, so your time. Time is money. And knowledge helps you with what you do with your time. So all these are a great trifecta. And as you move through time and as you move through getting better with your money, you're going to get better at saving. You're going to figure out how to save more. You're going to work harder to make more to save. And you're going to invest that money wisely. Okay, because you know you're starting to gain an understanding. And that's what Cryptofluency is here for. It's here for you to use as a resource of understanding. Okay, because we want to demystify it all. We want you to take advantage of what's going on now, not before it's passed by, not before the ship has sailed, not before adoption comes, right? Because then it'll just be like any other investment. And we will look back in history and say, wow, imagine those people who invested during that time. That's my belief. I believe 100 years from now, they'll look back and say, oh my gosh, we've never seen charts like that. That would have been a fantastic time. That time is right now. So don't wait. Doesn't cost you anything to learn. Doesn't cost you anything to do your own little investigation. Okay, but it does cost you to not recognize, to not at least put an eye into it. Okay, so I wish us all the luck, and I'm excited to see you in the next video or on the website soon.